In July 2025, Hulk Hogan's wife tried to quiet the growing rumors, insisting he was just recovering from neck surgery, that he was tired but strong. But as the silence dragged on, one thing became clear. The rumors weren't just rumors. She was preparing the world for the worst. For decades, Hulk Hogan stood as the indestructible titan of professional wrestling. Larger than life, louder than thunder, and seemingly immortal. But behind the flexing muscles, handlebar mustache, and unforgettable entrances was a man slowly unraveling. Here's the full story of how Hulk Hogan rose to become a living legend, and how it all came crashing down. Long before fame, Hogan, named Terry Bollea at birth, was just a husky little boy in Augusta, Georgia. He didn't look like a superhero. In fact, other kids teased him about his size. But even as a child, he had a larger-than-life energy that didn't fit the average mold. Lucky for him and his family, that restlessness soon found focus. At just 16 years old, Hogan caught his first glimpse of professional wrestling on TV. One match was all it took, and he was hooked. He started watching religiously and lifting weights like his heroes. He didn't just admire the legends, he was already preparing to become one. But before he went all the way, he took an unexpected side quest into the arts. Before the ring, he picked up a bass guitar. While obsessed with wrestling, Hogan had another passion: music. He studied business and music at Hillsborough Community College and played bass in several local rock bands. Eventually, the pull of the stage proved too strong, and he dropped out of school entirely to chase his musical dreams. In 1976, while playing with his band at a smoky Florida bar, Hogan had a chance meeting that changed everything. The Briscoe brothers, veteran wrestlers, saw his imposing physique and invited him to train. Hogan agreed, thinking it might be fun. He had no idea what was coming. His first training session with Hiro Matsuda was anything but friendly. In fact, it was brutal. Matsuda snapped Hogan's leg to teach him humility and to scare him off. Most would have quit. Hogan didn't. He returned 10 weeks later, fully healed and more determined than ever. Between 1977 and 1979, Hogan wrestled in smaller promotions under names like the Super Destroyer and Sterling Gold. He paid his dues, wrestling in grimy gyms and half-filled arenas. But his size, charisma, and golden hair caught the attention of one very important man. In 1979, Vince McMahon brought the young wrestler to the World Wrestling Federation and rebranded him Hulk Hogan, playing off his resemblance to Lou Ferrigno. With his biceps bulging and his confidence soaring, Hulk Hogan was about to explode. From 1981 to 1983, Hogan dominated the American Wrestling Association. There, his fame snowballed. Crowds chanted his name. Merchandise flew off shelves, and promoters begged him to return to the WWF. But Hogan had another plan brewing. In 1982, Hogan landed a role in Rocky III as Thunderlips, a hulking wrestling villain opposite Sylvester Stallone. The role catapulted him into pop culture stardom. He wasn't just a wrestler anymore. He was an icon. In 1983, Hogan married Linda Claridge. The two looked like the perfect all-American couple. Him, the muscle-bound star. Her, the glamorous blonde. But as his fame grew, so did the cracks in their fairy tale. Hogan returned to WWF in 1983, quickly rising in fame thanks to his dramatic antics in the ring. Just a few years later, in 1987, he stepped into the ring for a fight that would cement him in wrestling history. At WrestleMania III, he faced Andre the Giant, an undefeated, seemingly unstoppable colossus. And he did the impossible. In a moment that made fans across the globe gasp, Hogan lifted Andre off the ground and body-slammed him onto the mat. Dubbed the Slam heard round the world, it didn't just win him the match. It etched Hulk Hogan into the mythology of sports entertainment forever. Unfortunately, the drama didn't always stay on the stage. In 1988, Hogan joined forces with Macho Man Randy Savage to form the Mega Powers. But the partnership didn't last. Jealousy. WrestleMania VI, in 1990, he finally met his match. This time, Hogan stood across the ring from another powerhouse, the Ultimate Warrior. With both the WWE Championship and the Intercontinental Championship on the line, the match felt biblical. The crowd was split, and in a stunning turn, Hogan lost cleanly to the Ultimate Warrior. While this passing of the torch was all planned beforehand, Hogan wasn't quite ready to let go. By 1992, many thought Hogan's best days were behind him, but at WrestleMania VIII, he proved the doubters wrong with a high-profile return against Sid Justice. The match itself wasn't his most athletic, but it was heavy with tension and legacy. Hogan's victory showed he could still pack arenas. Unfortunately for him, though, trouble brewed backstage. In 1994, Hogan shocked the industry by testifying against Vince McMahon, but when he admitted to using substances himself, claiming McMahon had nothing to do with it, the court cleared McMahon. Hogan's heroic image took a permanent hit, but considering what he did next, perhaps the hit to his image inspired his unusual return to the ring. In 1996, fans expected Hulk Hogan to save the day once again in his all-American persona, but during the main event at Bash at the Beach, he shocked everyone. Hogan dropped his signature leg drop, not on the villains, but on his own teammate. The crowd erupted in disbelief and rage, pelting the ring with trash. In that instant, the hero they'd worshipped for over a decade became the person they loved to hate. Hogan's heel turn marked the birth of Hollywood Hogan and the rise of the New World Order. It was a complete reinvention that reignited his career and changed pro wrestling forever. The NWO storyline sent WCW's ratings through the roof and triggered the infamous Monday Night Wars with WWF. But even so, his time in the limelight was running out. Hogan returned to WWF between 1999 and 2000, but it wasn't the triumphant comeback many expected. Age and injuries had slowed him, and his appeal had dimmed for younger fans. He tried to rekindle Hulkamania, but the fire wasn't there. It was clear the golden era had passed. Hogan reluctantly stepped back once again. Hulk Hogan would return to WWE 3 more times, 2002 to 2003, 2005 to 2007, and 2014 to 2015. Each comeback came with fanfare, but quickly fizzled out. He was older, slower, and more controversial than ever. Yet every return reminded fans of the good old days and kept Hogan clinging to the limelight. In 2005, Hulk Hogan finally received the honor fans always knew he deserved, induction into the WWE Hall of Fame. It was the culmination of a career that had shaped an entire era of wrestling. For a brief moment, all the controversy and chaos faded into applause. Hogan had made it into immortality, or so it seemed. In 2005, Hogan launched Hogan Knows Best, a reality show centered on his family life. The show gave fans a look behind the curtain, and what they saw shocked them. Family fights, strained relationships, and marital tensions dominated the screen. In 2007, after rumors of an affair with his daughter's friend, Linda filed for divorce. The family never recovered. During the chaos of his divorce, Hogan fell into depression. At one low point, he considered not continuing on, until boxer Layla Ali intervened and talked him down. Her call, he later said, saved his life. But even so, his chaotic past seemed on a mission to catch up with him and take him down. As the years went on, Hogan began to rewrite his own history. Fans noticed inconsistencies in his stories, about everything from match outcomes to movie roles. To some, the exaggerations were harmless. To others, they were manipulations, and when the truth finally came out, it showed itself to be more shocking than anyone imagined. In 2012, a leaked tape of Hogan getting intimate with a radio host's strange wife went public. The scandal snowballed when Gawker Media published it online. Hogan sued and won a staggering $140 million. And that wasn't the last time he won big over his grievances. In 2013, Hogan also sued a Florida-based spine center, alleging botched surgeries. That same year, he graced the cover of Sports Illustrated, showing that despite the drama, he still had star power. Just a few years later, though, one spicy reveal took a huge hit to all the glory he'd managed to hold onto. In 2015, audio leaked of Hogan making deeply prejudiced remarks during a secretly recorded intimate encounter. The fallout was immediate and brutal. WWE wiped him from all their Hall of Fame listings, pulled his merchandise, and severed all official ties. Unfortunately for him, even an old and rare look at his softer side couldn't save him. Hogan had publicly pleaded for forgiveness in 2008 for past language. But this tape left little room for redemption. The man who once stood as a hero to millions had become wrestling's biggest cautionary tale. Luckily for him, though, there were still those who saw past his questionable words. In 2010, Hogan married Jennifer McDaniel, a makeup artist. Their marriage lasted over a decade, but by 2022, they quietly finalized a divorce. In 2023, he married again, this time to Sky Daily, a yoga instructor. The whirlwind romance raised eyebrows, but Hogan insisted he had finally found peace. Sadly, that peace wouldn't last long. Click the link in the description for more details. He was immobile, barely conscious, and no longer himself. Former colleagues offered cryptic statements about wishing him peace. Fans around the world braced for the worst, until an oddly ambiguous message emerged the very next month. In July 2025, Hulk Hogan's wife stepped in to silence the growing rumors, insisting he was merely recovering from a neck injury. She called him tired but strong. But as the days dragged on and Hogan remained silent, one thing became clear. The rumors weren't just rumors. They were the beginning of the end. On the morning of July 24, 2025, emergency responders were called to Hogan's Florida home. He had suffered cardiac arrest. Despite every attempt to revive him, the wrestling legend was pronounced gone at the hospital. He was 71, and with that, the world didn't just lose a man, it lost a myth and a true legend. Hulk Hogan's life was a whirlwind of triumph, scandal, pain, and transformation. But even now, fans remember the roar of his music, the energy of his promos, and the feeling of being a kid watching a giant defy gravity. However, it would be unfair to discuss Hulk Hogan's legacy without acknowledging the highly controversial aspects that have shaped his career, particularly his association with the MAGA movement and the racially charged incidents that have followed him for years. Hogan's ties to this political movement, especially his vocal support for MAGA, raised significant eyebrows and created an environment of division among both fans and critics. These associations sparked intense debates, particularly in light of the wrestling world's diverse and inclusive nature.